look, it's just words, man. It's just words. It's how you say it, you know, that makes it offensive. But if I'm up here making a joke out of it, it's a joke, right? Welcome. Well, the conversation you're about to hear happened right on the heels of the one call that I had a few videos back, The Complete Understanding from the gentleman from Atlanta. It was a great conversation. Then this journalistic student comes along, and apparently he's doing a project, and asked if he could do a short interview with me, because apparently I'm a target for things like that. And so I gave him a short interview. And then when it was over, as I was breaking down, he went over to the other side of the rig, and he was going to school for journalism. And I gave him a little schooling of my own. I gave him a badass schooling on journalism. And I don't know if it was something I said or maybe something he had eaten, but he got a little queasy at the end. I don't know. I guess I have that effect on people at times. But if you like it, hit the like button. You know, if you care, you share. And if you can, please do contribute. I don't know how hard it is out there for you, but it is extremely hard for me. And although I'm not doing this for the money, I need that money to keep on doing it. So please contribute. I still haven't got a shop up yet. I haven't had the time to even do that. I've been working on some other things that have been just getting in the way of my life. But anyway you can, please. Subscribestar.com and Badass Uncle Sam, PayPal, Badass Uncle Sam 76 at Gmail. You can sign up for regular contributions there or one time. Anything is appreciated. And of course, you can't do anything else for me. Please pray for me out there. I dearly need that. So God bless you. I'll see you on the flip side. How you doing? Where are you from? Chicago. Oh God. What do you do up there?
Nothing. I keep away from crime.
Avoiding crime?
No, I keep away from crime.
Keep away from crime? Good luck with that up there.
That's what my mama told me.
Good luck with that, man. God bless you.
So, you be down for unpartisan journalism? You be down for some unpartisan journalism?
Sure.
All right. I have to do a project for class, and it's basically about, I guess, my time in New Orleans. So I might as well just try to get as much different things as I can. Right. And I kind of keep seeing you around here.
Yeah.
I thought it would be funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, there was a journalist just did a bit for me in the New Orleans Journal, or the French Quarter Journal magazine. Did a article on me. So yeah, I'll be happy to anytime. You want to do it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
My camera's kind of busted in the back, so I have to like face it forward.
Okay.
So you can kind of help me put the shot together.
All right.
All right. So anyway, what brings you over here in New Orleans as a badass Uncle Sam? What do you actually like do around here?
To try to get up some conversation so we aren't yelling at one another, so we don't listen to the pundits try to separate us, because I think we can work out our differences by talking to one another, finding out what our disagreements are and working them out, because I think we can find out common ground. I think we always have. We can find common ground and then work our differences out.
All right. And what do you say for like your stance on like current politics? Is there a reason you chose republicanism? Is it just because it seems like a very taboo thing to be a part of, or is it just because that's who the current president is?
No, I think there's a push by the elites to go ahead and divide us. So right now in the lexicon is globalism and nationalism. The globalists want to eviscerate nation states, open up borders, reduce us down to the lowest common denominator, create chaos with that, with the class of cultures, and then come in with the solution of being a one world government. So they come in with their UN armies and put us into a one world currency. And that's basically world communism. And that's what they're trying to do. Nationalists are trying to keep nation states. They're trying to keep our sovereignty, our identity, and still be able to live together. In other words, trade and work together, but keeping our identities separate. You know.
I really want to go into politics, but I am just very curious. Like, how long have you been keeping up with this identity?
Oh God, almost all my life I've been, I've been involved with being in politics. You got to remember, I grew up in the '60s, so it was very polarized back then, also. But back then, it was all about stopping the war. That was the main focus. It was like just these wars for profit, for no reason, bullshit things that we still are going into. I mean, we still have to fight. We're still fighting that. I mean, the military-industrial complex is real, and they are part of what is known in the lexicon now as the deep state. So they're one part of that entity, and us being aware of that and trying to, again, nation states living in peace rather than at each other's throats is all part of that. So I grew up in that, and I watched back then, because I was back at that time a bust-out liberal, because it was all about free speech and free love and all that good free stuff, right? And I got caught up in that wave, but now I've watched the left being taken over by the hardcore communists, where they are actually stopping free speech now. I mean, I was in Berkeley when the free speech movement started. And you could go listen to a Nazi speak without, and then ask them questions and make them look like assholes, because they are. And that was it. Now you have leftists like Antifa and whatnot stopping anything right of center from even speaking. How do you defend that? I mean, how do you defend that? Free speech is free speech. You should allow everybody to say anything they want, be as big as asshole as they want, and then counter them with an argument rather than shut them up. Because if you shut them up, you've lost. You're already losing. So I'm watching the left get pulled into an area with the whole thing about controlling speech. PC correctness. Oh, you can't call somebody this, you can't call somebody that. I would say go back and listen to the comedian Lenny Bruce. He's the guy that they killed him because of, he started it. I mean, he used to get up on stage and he'd go, man, look at this crowd I got here today. I don't get many niggers in here. Look at this, I got some niggers in here. Look at the wops. Look at the wops. Hey, wop. They're the Jews and wops together. And he'd go, look, it's just words, man. It's just words. It's how you say it, that makes it offensive. But if I'm up here making a joke out of it, it's a joke, right? So that's it. They try to make language offensive. Anytime you say anything, it's offensive. It's bullshit. That's bullshit. I go back to the old childhood limerick, sticks and stones may break your bones. The words will never harm you. So, again, it's how we talk to one another, it's the respect we give one another, that's how we work out our differences. It's not just cutting out language altogether.
I kind of have to bring it back to what I've assigned to say.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been stationed here in New Orleans? giving your opinion.
I've been on the street doing this for 7 years.
7 years?
Yeah, so I was doing it during the Obama thing too. As a political satirical cartoonist, I was working for the New Orleans Levy newspaper right after Katrina, and I was a writer for them also. And we got up to about 100,000 readers, and it was good. I enjoyed that because actually I had politicians afraid of me. It was cool, you know. But I realized the power of, you know, propaganda. And so I figured, you know, to do something different, I'd bring it out to the street. And because if you're going to pick up a newspaper or go to a blog or something, it's typically because you agree with that premise. Well, out here in the street, this is the front lines. This is where the revolution's always fought.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring it out to the streets to go ahead and see how it would play. And it's played very well.
Well, what has been the worst you've received? Like, what's reception you've received from being out on the front lines?
Yeah, not much. People just kind of like, you know, when I call me a few names.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, but other than that, I'm a big boy. I've been called names before.
You got any names that like kind of interest you? Like, oh, never heard that before.
No. The one thing I found out about the what I might call the opposition or the liberals is they don't have much of an imagination. You know, they pretty much stick to what their script is and what they've been told, and they really don't have anything of their any imagination. Like, you know, a lot of what I'm getting is, you know, fuck Trump. I said, oh, good, yeah, two-word conversation. One of them was vulgar. Very good. Can you expand on that? You know. So I try to engage people if I can. You know, so again, we can see where our differences are and work them out from there.
Yeah, that seems to be wrapping up about it. Thank you, man.
Yeah. It's a pleasure. What's your name?
Oh, Gerard.
Gerard, Mike. Pleasure to meet you. Gerard here. So you're going to school up there? Is that the
No, I go to school down here.
All right.
I go over at Xavier.
Oh, all right. Yeah. That seems like a good school.
Working on mass communication with the big name journalists.
Yeah. You know, that's tough because I think, you know, I spoke to a couple of journalists out here last week. One of them was an editor for Fox out of New York, and the other one used to work for Fox, and NBC, and she quit because she was tired of the bias and the restrictions on what they could say, the boxing of things. And so she says a lot of her people, the true journalists, are becoming independents.
Yeah.
But it's harder to make a living because, you know, you're independent, you don't have the corporate backing. But here's my deal on this, you know. It's like, you know, they lie. And my rule of thumb is, when we talk about this, is if you're taking corporate money, you're responsible for that corporate money. Because, I mean, even Fox News, who's supposedly supposed to be the, you know, the most truthful. Yeah, okay, bullshit. If you're, I mean, half of the commercials on Fox are pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So if a pharmaceutical company comes out with something that's going to poison 2,000 people, you really think Fox is going to be fair and they're balanced in their news on that? Yeah. And another thing I always like to point out is 9/11. Hey, look. I speak to people out here. I spoke to 2 survivors of 9/11 recently. One of them is a big time, activist who survived the Twin Towers. Hardly anybody I speak to believes that 19 hijackers broke down those buildings. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen, surprisingly, in high school, like, one of my teachers showed me like documentaries and stuff for it, and I don't think like in a single one, at least in my memory, where they say that the person organizing the documentary was a survivor, or that any of the people that they supposedly interviewed were survivors. It was always like experts or like people on the ground floor.
Yeah. Well, I talk again. If you go to my website, you'll see the conversations I've had with survivors from 9/11, police officers, firemen, you name it. And the stories they tell me completely contradict the official story. Completely.
So what's your take on 9/11? Like, why would...
Who benefited? Who benefited from 9/11? Well, as a journalist, you got to ask these questions, right?
Yeah.
Who benefited from 9/11?
Bush. He was able to get...
He was one of them, but let's go deeper. It wasn't the Muslims. It wasn't us.
It wasn't us. Let's see. People who wanted oil.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Bush, oil...
The military-industrial complex and the national security state exploded. The Patriot Act was already written before 9/11. Had to be. Now, the physical evidence alone says these buildings were brought down by controlled demolition. Just recently, the University of Alaska completed a 2-year study on building number 7, said conclusively that building came down by controlled demolition. Now, 19 hijackers did that. You know about this building? Yeah. This is the 3rd building to fall in New York City in 9/11. From where we're standing, from the Twin Towers, from here to the other side of the French Market, 47 stories tall, housed all 16 of our intelligence agencies and the mayor's emergency bunker. That thing was a fortress. You could shoot a howitzer from here into it and you wouldn't crack the window. It was, and outside of the Pentagon, probably the most secure building in the world. 5:20 in the afternoon without anything hitting that thing. It did this in 6 seconds. Straight to the ground, perfect controlled demolition. Wasn't even mentioned in the 9/11 report. What brought it down?
Inside. Can't have been any of the hijacks.
Architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. I actually met one of the originators of this. A&E for 9/11 Truth. There are over 3,000 architects and engineers who've studied the collapse of that building, or these buildings, and they have signed their names to a paper, putting their names, reputations, and lives on the line, saying those buildings came down by controlled demolition. You can go and watch that building collapse, and when you see it, if I hadn't told you where and when it collapsed, you would swear in a Bible, that's a controlled demolition. So, with this in mind, if I could be out here as a guy just on the street, collecting this evidence, how come none of these guys bring it up? How come they keep on telling us, oh, it's 19 hijackers that brought down these buildings, and we got all these politicians telling us the same thing, when we know it's a bald-faced lie. So if they're lying to us about that, what else are they lying to us about? And that's why you have journalists like the lady I spoke to last week that quit them and are now out there doing independent journalism. That's why you have things like InfoWars that they try to silence, because InfoWars will tell you the truth. So they try to silence them.
I don't think it's truth necessarily. I think it's just another medium. They don't exactly have any known filter other than a right bias.
Oh no, bullshit. Listen to them. Listen to them. You will find out, believe me. I've been on the show. I've been a guest on the show. Believe me, but as a matter of fact, one of their commentators, David Knight, you listen to him, and he will tell you, I mean, he doesn't like a lot of things Trump is doing. What you need, darling?
Capitalism.
God bless you. You're a sweetheart.
It takes a little bit of bravery and common sense to be out here doing this, so.
Well, thank you. Here's a get-out-of-jail-free card from Hillary Clinton for you.
Why, thank you. They used to give these out to us, the sheriff's office, but they don't anymore. Y'all have a good day. Good luck.
God bless you. Thank you very much.
God bless you.
So you see, people recognize the truth. They recognize the truth. They know they're being lied to. They're going to come by, and that, like, you know, she obviously worked for the police department. I speak to a lot of police out here. I speak to a lot of military out here that are wide awake to know what's going on. And so I'm getting more truth out here on the street than I'll ever get off of those guys. So if you want to become a real journalist, you got to be true to yourself. You might have to make some sacrifices. Now, look up Gary Webb. You familiar with him? Gary Webb was a journalist who exposed the Iran-Contra and the drug dealing and how the government was involved with the CIA and all this. He was coming out, he was getting ready to expose it all. They killed him. He was a journalist that was murdered by our government. So that just like they will try to silence InfoWars, I mean, why, again, why do you go back to censorship? Why aren't we allowed to go ahead and listen to them if we want? If you don't want to listen to them, no one's forcing you to do it. But why would they take them down? That's pure censorship. That happens in communist countries. That happens in tyrannical countries. It's not supposed to happen here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man.
Yeah.
So everyone has their own, you know, way of looking at things. And some people want to ignore it. Some people want to look into it more. I'm getting very lightheaded right now. I'm gonna go sit down.
All right, brother, man. Pleasure.
So what do you think? Do you think it was me, or maybe the party the night before that made him feel crazy? Probably told him a lot more about journalism out there in a few minutes than he got in all of his classes. So you know what to do. If you like it, you know what buttons to hit. And if you can, please do contribute. If you can't do anything else, pray for me out there. God bless you, and I'll see you in the streets.